Welcome. Thank you for joining me. I just really wanted to rant about my record collection. You can kind of see it up there. I took a lot of them down so I could show you, but I thought I would just get right into it. So, the first album I want to talk about is People Watching by Sam Fender. This has been my addiction for a long time. It took a while to catch on, because one of my favorite parts about this album is the writing. I mean, kind of sounds obvious, but his accent is really strong, and it makes it really hard to tell what he's saying sometimes. So it took a while for me to really catch on to the lyrics and the story, but once I did, it just got better and better every time I would listen to it. It's so good. Basically, I guess you could say it's a concept album about him going back home after 7 years. So he's from the UK. So he leaves, comes back 7 years later, and he just sees like pain and suffering all around him. And the album is mainly about the people he comes back to and the situations they're in and the state of the UK in general. And he just kind of comments on everything that he sees around him and how flawed the systems are and how much the people are hurting. It is really sad, as you can tell from that description, but it just does such a good job of weaving this story throughout the entire album. I would say the highlights are the title track and the opener, People Watching. If I turn it around, you can maybe read some of those over there. My camera's not great, so sorry about that. But the opener, People Watching, does such a good job at setting up the entire story. It sets up coming back after 7 years. It sets up the fact that he's kind of observing everything around him, the people, the situations that they're in, and it sets up that the person he came back for is in a care home and they end up passing away. And it's just like such a somber way to start the album, but it's so upbeat that like the first time you listen to it, it's the lead single, you kind of bob along to it, and then you read the lyrics, and it's just like you get this entirely different view of the album. Other highlights, Chin Up is probably one of my favorites in terms of sound. It is like, I think every song on here is very well written, but I think that one stands out for how it sounds. It's got a really good rhythm that continues throughout the entire album, which is nice. And then I would say for writing, A Little Bit Closer is a standout. It is about his relationship with religion and how over time he got more and more disconnected to it. And I really like the motif of basically every chorus he says, I get a little bit closer to it. And at the start of the story, when he's talking about his childhood, he's mainly referring like a little bit closer, he's getting closer to religion because that is what he's taught. Everyone's telling him that he needs to get closer to religion. And then after like each chorus, he's growing up and he's starting to realize the kind of cracks in the system that he's in, and his faith starts to wane. And then when he fully grows into an adult, he realizes all of like the flaws in the system that he had been told to believe in for so long. And when he says, I get a little bit closer to it, every time after that, it seems like he's referring to love rather than religion, which is a really cool way to say the same thing, but the setup to it is different and completely changes the context, which is really cool. And another highlight is TV Dinner. Probably the best written on the album, in my opinion. It is very dense. If you look up the lyrics, it is just like a wall of text because he's just yapping. But just like everything, you can feel the pain in everything that he's saying. He has a similar song in every album. Like I think White Privilege in the first one, and then I in his second album. have a similar kind of sound and setup where it's just like very lyric dense. Like he's just talking constantly, and there's like he's just essentially talking about all the problems that he sees in his country. Um, I think the setup is mainly that he's watching like the news or something. He's watching the TV, and just contemplating all of the shitty things going on, like in his life and around him. It's so good. And like the closer, "Remember My Name," is just tragic. I'm not sure 100% the story behind it, but I think that it's about like a mentor. There was someone that mentored him a lot in his early career and got him where he is now, and they passed away. And "Remember My Name" is just like such a heartbreaking end to this album. But I can't stop yapping about this album. It is so good. If you haven't listened to it, go listen to it. It is, I guess, kind of like indie rock, kind of like pop. I don't really know like a box to put it in, but if you like any of those genres, then I think that you'll really like this. And just like read the lyrics, get into the story. It is so good. I'll show you the album cover again. It is some kids on the street with a gun. You probably can't see that, but you can probably see that. My camera's not that bad. But quite a simple album cover, but does such a good job at kind of letting the story take place. There's no like fanfare in this album. Even the inside is just white with a lyric from I believe this is "Nostalgia's Lie," which is also one of my favorites, but I will not get into it because I've taken enough of your time with this album. We will get on to the next. Next up is "Masterpiece Theater" by Marianas Trench. If you watched my CDs collection, I believe this was in the CDs collection. I think I might have shown off all of my Marianas Trench CDs. I only have 3 of the records because they were expensive and I just wanted to buy my favorite albums. So I got this one, which is probably, it was my favorite album for a long time. I would say it's still up there, but my favorite album changes around a lot more now. Like People Watching is up there now, but it is newer, so I think I need to like settle on it and see. But this is like a consistent go-to of like my favorite album. Yeah, if you watched my CD video, you watched me have about this album back then. But this is one of like the only albums that I really liked as a kid, and I still like now. A lot of the music I liked when I was a kid, I do not care for now. Very different tastes, but Marianas Trench was like one of the only consistencies from when I was a kid to now. And when I went back to this album, it was just like banger after banger, because I think every single one of these singles on this album was a hit, at least here in Canada. If you're from Canada, you probably know Marianas Trench. If you're older than like 20, they haven't been popular in a little while. This was 2009, I believe, and every single single blew up on this one, at least for Canada standards. So it was kind of like a blast from the past, and all the singles are so good. And going like for the songs that weren't singles, I was kind of expecting it to slow down a lot because it was just go, go, go with all the singles, but it does not slow down. There are so many songs in this album that could have been singles that they didn't choose, and I'm so glad, because I listened to the singles first, obviously, and I'd heard all those on the radio, and then going into the album, usually when the singles are that good, it can be kind of disappointing when you get to the album, and it's not all like that, but this album is all like that. I believe you can see the whole album right here. Read all of them. This was also the birth of something interesting. You'll notice that there was Masterpiece Theater 1, 2, and 3. And this was their second album. And it was the start of them doing these like very grand theatrical openings and like openers and closers to their albums. This one also has like a mid one and Masterpiece Theater 2, but the main thing is they have like this dramatic opener that really sets off the tone of the album, and then they have a closer which is like really long, extravagant, and has pieces of every single song pieced together in the lyrics. And I think this one even has some lyrics from their previous album, Fix Me, which is interesting because it's just like it's like a blend of everything they've ever done. And almost all of their albums after this had a similar trend where they had big opener, big closer, and the closer had a blend of all of the songs in it, which is really cool. I think their most recent album, Haven, the last one, like the closing track is 8 minutes, which is crazy. This one, it's like maybe 4 minutes. It's not that crazy, but each album, they just get longer. But this was like the start of that, and like everything in between those just like keeps going. There are a few slower songs, like I believe, if I can look in my camera, where'd it go? Beside You, I believe, right there. That one's like the slow ballad, and there are a few other like slow songs on this album, but they're like very few and far between. It's very like rock album, I would describe it if you want to check it out. I would either start with this or with Ever After if you're going to get into Marianas Trench, and you should get into Marianas Trench. If you want more rock, I would start with this album, and if you want more pop, I would start with Ever After, which is the album right after this. It was probably their most popular album. It had a lot of big hits in Canada. Like I think their top 5 is probably all from that album. There might be one that's not from the album, but for the most part, it was their most popular outing. But in my mind, this one sticks out as the best one. And something that's interesting, I don't know if it'll come up very well, but you can see it looks like all blurry. This album came with 3D glasses. So like there's art inside, there's like little posters inside that have like the little red and the blue, and then they have those old style glasses, and it makes like this really cool 3D effect on all of this stuff. And most of their albums had cool stuff like that. Like their most recent album, the vinyl, when you open it up, it was like a pop-up book, which is really funny. Like you open it up with just like this big 3D effect. I believe their Ever After had these like crazy photos of them as like toys, because like toys are a big part of the album. I'm not gonna get into it because I already got into depth with this one, but you should check out Marianas Trench. This one's one of my favorite albums. Also, one last thing before I move on to the next one, the actual vinyl itself in this one is one of the coolest ones that I have. It's like a wine red. I wonder if I can take it out. It might be a little difficult to take it out. Well, we'll try. Put that down. I'll just give you like a sneak peek, like that. You can see it's like a wine red, which is really cool. I have a few that are pretty interesting. I have like a couple white ones. I have a clear one. The people watching one is clear, which is cool. I have a clear yellow one as well. And the one that we're gonna get to next is all black. Next up, we have Billie Eilish. You know her, you maybe love her, you maybe don't. But whether you like her or not, I have been so hooked on this album. This one, like people watching, took me a while to get into it. When I'd first listened to it, I really liked it. It was like a super consistent album. It had crazy good production, as you'd expect from anything Phineas gets his hands on. I hadn't dove into the lyrics too much initially, but the more I listened to them, they're not as good as people watching. There's not like this crazy story or like overarching story that's like really emotional, well written, but I would say this is the best writing we've gotten from Billie Eilish, and I think that's in part due to the fact that she did most of the writing on this album, whereas beforehand it was like a joint thing between her and Phineas. But this one, it seemed like she was pretty much 100% on the lyrics for herself, and then Phineas focused on production, which really feels like both of them refined their craft and then they combined together to such like a magical album. There are a few bumps in here. I would say in the middle it drags a little bit, gets a little bit slow, around like Wildflower. And to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of Birds of a Feather. Everyone else seems to love that one, but it's probably one of the weaker ones in the album in my opinion. But the start and the end of this album are so strong, and like the production and lyrics are good enough to get you through the slow spots, even if they are a little bit slow in my opinion. Um, but I think that the more I listen to this album, the more I love about it. I listen to more lyrics, and I kind of hear different things about the production every time because there's just so much, like so much detail hidden in this album in terms of production, and I don't usually listen to albums that have crazy production like this, so it was kind of a treat. Every time I listen to it, I'd hear something new, which is amazing. I'll show you this one. You're probably not going to be able to read the songs in the corner, but you probably already know the songs. You can look them up if you're that curious. I would say highlights are L'amour de ma vie. I love the jazz, like Leve inspired first part. I'm not a huge fan of the second part where it kind of goes into like this electronic hyper pop that's like super vocoded, but it's not bad, and it's definitely built on me. Like the more I listen to it, the more I'm like okay with it. I just wish that it was an interlude, so I could listen to L'amour de ma vie on its own and have like the jazz part on its own and then have the hyperpop part on its own, but it's still amazing as a combo. The Diner is amazingly written, in my opinion, has the best writing in this album. It is a story told from the perspective of her stalker, which is crazy, and it's got this like super dark, dingy production that makes it like a really creepy song. And the more you listen to it, the more creepy it gets, and it's so good. And I just love like a storytelling song. I know, like, I feel like a lot of songs are like storytelling, but like it's a very specific type of song, like, well, all of the songs on People Watching, where it just feels like watching a movie with how like well written a story is. And I think the story in this one is really well laid out, in a sense that you kind of like don't understand what's happening at first because she's talking from someone else's perspective, but the more you hear of like her saying creepy things, you're like, what is going on here? And then learning that it was about her stalker kind of puts like this big bow on it of like that is terrifying in the best way possible. And another standout is the closer, Blue. Just like the melodies on that, it's like a haunting, I don't know if haunting's the right word. It's like a beautiful, almost haunting melody that just like reverberates throughout the entire song. And like it's such a good wrap up for the entire album. I love it so much. I would say Chihiro is also standout. That one's one that I kind of like slept on a bit at the start, and then after a while, like after every listen, I would hear more and more about the production. It's like so bouncy and like it's not fun in a way, but it's like groovy. I guess is the best way I can say it. But also like the imagery of this album, like her just like floating in the middle of the ocean, and then obviously the album, her floating beneath this door underwater. I saw clips of like how they did this, and she had to like train, I think, and she had to like overload on oxygen, and I think she almost drowned at one point, which is crazy for the album cover. I mean, it was worth it. I'm trying to kind of blocking her with the light, but like it's such a beautiful album cover that's like kind of shows her drowning from all the shit that she's dealing with that she explains in the album. It's so good. But I think we'll wrap this one up and move on to the next album. Next up is After Laughter by Paramore. This one, similar to Masterpiece Theater, this one was like my favorite album for a long time. I found it during COVID, and if you know the stuff that they get into in this album, it is very relevant to a lot of people in COVID. It deals with a lot of like mental struggle, but it's masked by almost every song being super upbeat and happy sounding, but with these like super depressing lyrics. And it's funny because the one song that sounds really sad, like if you did not listen to the lyrics, most of the songs would sound happy, and there's one song called 26 that sounds really sad. It's like this slow, depressing ballad, but it's like the one hopeful, happy song in the album, because it's about not giving up hope no matter how bad things get, and just like not letting yourself give up. And like when you listen to lyrics, it's just like very sweet, especially because it's like middle late album, so you've been through a lot of these like almost exhaustingly upbeat songs about really shitty things, and then you get this break where you can kind of just like relax and be happy, and then it gets back into it. But the end isn't as depressing as the start, so like it never gets back into it as much after 26. You kind of get like a reprieve from it all. But this album is very special because I can't really show it off that well, but if you can you can kind of see it's the same symbol. I have the tattoo on my arm. It is the same symbol as this guy right here. I wanted to get an album representing music because the past few years it's been really special to me, and this album was really special to me for a long time. It still is, obviously, but it got me through a lot of hard times, and I really like this little optical illusion they have at the front, and it kind of made for a perfect tattoo. So I do have a tattoo of this album. Let's just hope that Paramore doesn't do anything stupid, because they have had a tendency of breaking up, getting back together. The current band members are very non-problematic, so I'll be happy with that. But worst comes to worst, I'll just say it's, I don't know, some random shape that I made up because I don't want to associate it with it. But I don't think that's gonna happen, so I'll be fine. I'm gonna look at the bag. This one's a little bit bigger, so you can actually read what is going on. I would say highlights are Hard Times. This was the one that got me into the album in the first place. It's, I believe, the lead single. It had this like crazy cool like electric looking music video to it, and it's like this super upbeat indie rock sound, which was crazy because they had been mainly like punk rock early on, and then they transitioned like a little bit more pop rock, but then there was like a 4-year gap, and then they popped out this album, and the lead single was like this super weird like indie rock song with a bunch of weird instruments in it, and it was so cool. And I would say Rose Colored Boys, also similar upbeat indie rock song that just like keeps the momentum going early on. 26 is probably my favorite Paramore song, which is saying a lot because there's a lot of really good Paramore songs, and they have a huge catalog now. But 26 is definitely a standout for me still. And other than that, I would say the latter half definitely took a little while to get for me to like get into. But like the more I got into it, like Caught in the Middle and Idol Worship are some of my favorites on the album now. And the closer, Tell Me How, is just like, well, before it you get this like instrumental with like a poem reading in the back, and it's kind of like weird, and then Tell Me How is just kind of like, I don't know, it's like a bit of a hollow ending to it all, where like you don't get this satisfying end. And initially when I first listened to it, and I was like, oh my god, I wanted something like upbeat, but the more I listen to it, the more it feels exactly fitting to an album like this about struggles that don't really end. You know, you get a little reprieve like 26 where you fight for hope. But I guess it is a bit depressing that it doesn't really end like that. Um, so the end kind of just like signifies that, which is really cool. But other than that, I would say I also really like the imagery of this album. I find I stick a lot to imagery when I listen to songs or albums that I really like. And this one is just like, as you can see, really strong, like in your face from the beginning. I mean, you got bright pink, and you got all these like flashing colors on the side, like up here, and all the music videos have these like bright flashing colors everywhere, and these like sketches over everything, that give it a really unique vibe, especially for a Paramore album, when a lot of their stuff before this was like kind of like edgy and a bit dark. This one kind of allowed itself to just like pop with color, and it really improves the songs along with it, in my opinion, because that pop of color associates with the music and they kind of go hand in hand, which I really appreciate. So whenever I hear this album, I just think of like pink and neon, like yellow and blue, and it's like so vibrant, even though it's so depressing. It's just, I don't know, such a mix of emotion. It's so good. Yeah, this was definitely one that I would have put number one for a long time. That and Masterpiece Theater would have been like my number ones for a good amount of time. It's still up there, but as I said, with Masterpiece Theater, things are a little bit more fluid now with how much I love albums. They go up and down a lot. This one's been consistently up there, but I wouldn't say it's held the top spot for a long time, but I still love it, and it'll always be in my heart for being a special album. But with that, we move on to the last album I'm going to show you tonight. And last up, we have the one, the only Hozier. Very interesting album cover of him completely buried in the dirt with his mouth sticking out and a daisy in it. I think that's a daisy, don't quote me on that. But really strong imagery of this album as well, where all of like the promotional art was very like dirty, brown, like dingy, and it really fits the vibe of like the heavy bass that's in a lot of the songs in this album. And of course, since it's a Hozier album, you get a lot of like storytelling that's very vague and similar to like poetry, where there's a lot of like storytelling that leads into kind of like references to the past and kind of goes hand in hand with the type of music that he's going with. It's very hard to understand. Still, most of these songs, I have no idea what's going on. But I think that also plays to its strength of it just, the sound is so good, so strong that it doesn't really matter that I'm kind of unaware of what's happening most of the time. I feel like most people feel that way about a lot of Hozier songs, where like you can catch on to a general story with a lot of his songs, but a lot of it is also gonna go over your head, unfortunately. It does make it really fun to research, where you're like, I'm just gonna like deep dive into like an explanation of like one of his songs or an entire album, and it unlocks this like deeper appreciation you have for a lot of the songs. Like I did that for Psychopomp Abstract in this album, and like the imagery of him like seeing the earth from like an outside perspective is like so crazy and like almost haunting with the imagery that he has there. There is a lot of imagery with like the earth, which I guess makes sense with all of the dirt that he has in the promotional material. I think that's one thing he does really well, especially in this album, is that imagery of like, you can always picture something in your head when you're listening to one of his albums, which is really cool. I will turn around. You will probably not be able to read anything. I'll do that. So maybe if you got some eagle eyes, you can see what's going on. But it is very long, as you can see. There's a lot of songs. It is a double album. It is very heavy. But I would say highlights for this one are DeSelby Part 2. It starts with a Part 1, Part 2. It's probably my favorite Hozier song, up there with Cherry Wine from his debut album. It is like the bass on it is so like grungy and so good, and the melodies are like amazing. His performance is amazing. It's just such a good like rock song from him, and I wish they got more traction as a single. This album didn't really get much traction, maybe a little bit with Eat Your Young, until the EP came out after it with Too Sweet, and then that blew up. But I really wish this got to blow up along with it, because it's so good. There is, here, if I read along with it, it does drag a little bit near the middle, but Abstract is also amazing. Where's that? Right at the end. Yeah, Abstract right there. And then, where is it? I can never remember the order of this album because it's so long. Oh my god, where is it? Guys, bear with me. I've lost it. Oh no. Where did it go? I'm so confused. Oh, All Things End. Okay, I found it. That took me long enough. All Things End is like, it's got this really like flowy melody to it, and I don't know, it just scratches my brain so well. I feel like the only downfall with this album is he released a lot of the really strong songs in terms of like the sound. The strongest songs were all singles, so when it came around to the album, a lot of the songs just didn't sound as compelling as the singles, which was unfortunate, but a lot of them had a lot more to unlock in terms of like my appreciation for them over time. So I think that outside of the singles, they started to grow on me more and more, which tends to happen with a lot of albums where I really like the singles and then I have to kind of catch on to the rest of the album. I would say this one is like a close second overall for Hozier albums. His debut album is just so good. His self-titled, I mean, as I mentioned, Cherry Wine, but they're just like banger after banger. And that album actually has story writing that you can follow along without having to search up, which is a lot more satisfying than kind of just having to go along with things when you don't really understand. Like, especially Cherry Wine is like such a crazy song when you get into the nitty-gritty of the lyrics. But this is not about the debut album because I don't have it on a vinyl, so this is the next best I get. But I still love this album and I still cherish it deeply. But I believe that is about all I have to say about these albums. So I'm so glad you came along to listen to me yap about my favorite albums and my record collection. If you liked it and you're still awake right now, maybe like and subscribe, and then I can do this again. I have another 5, so it'd actually be very convenient just to do another video like this. But with that, I hope you have a good night, a good sleep, and I'll see you in the next video.